When you think of Brazil, what comes to mind? Soccer, right? Samba, the Amazon rainforest. But what if I told you that Brazil is right at the center of a massive, high-stakes game to feed the entire planet? So let's get into it. This is the story of how Brazil is becoming the world's farm.
But first, I've got to ask you something to get us started. Can you grow grapes in a desert? I mean, it sounds completely impossible, doesn't it? Something you'd see in a sci-fi movie. Well, the answer might just blow your mind.
Because believe it or not, right in the middle of Brazil's semi-arid northeast, a place that's historically been hit by terrible droughts, technology and huge irrigation projects are creating these incredible agricultural oases. We're talking top-quality grapes, mangoes, all grown in the desert and shipped straight to shoppers in Europe and the US. It's a perfect snapshot of the power of modern Brazilian agriculture.
But here's the thing. That high-tech, export-driven model, it's only half the story. To really understand what's going on with farming in Brazil, you have to know it's a nation of two totally different farms basically living side by side. So on one side, you've got this absolute titan, agribusiness. Picture massive farms, we're talking huge, growing just one crop like soy on a gigantic scale, almost all of it for export. It's high-tech, it's mechanized, it's a money-making machine. Then on the other side, you have family farming. These are smaller plots of land growing a whole variety of crops, and they are the absolute backbone of Brazil's food supply. So you see the split, right? Agribusiness feeds the world, but family farming, that's what feeds Brazil.
Now, what's so fascinating is the ripple effect here. The agribusiness model, because it needs these enormous unbroken stretches of land, is actually making one of Brazil's oldest problems even worse: the concentration of land in just a few hands. In the newer farming areas like the Mato Piba region, it's led to some of the most extreme land inequality in the entire country.
So you might be wondering, how on earth do these smaller family farms survive all that pressure? Well, many of them have this really clever strategy called pluriactividade. It's a fancy word, but what it really means is they don't put all their eggs in one basket. Family members might also have jobs in town or run a small local business. They diversify their income to make sure the family stays afloat. It just goes to show how resilient and adaptable they are.
And that resilience is definitely not going unnoticed. The Brazilian government knows just how crucial these family farms are. For example, the latest harvest plan set aside a record 76 billion reais. That's over 13 billion US dollars for a program called PRONAF, which is all about giving credit and support to strengthen family farming. That's a huge vote of confidence.
Okay, so let's zoom out for a second, because what's happening inside Brazil has massive shockwaves on the global stage. Brazil's farming power isn't just a domestic issue. It's a key piece in what you could call the great commodity game, a geopolitical chess match for resources and influence.
You see, for decades, the whole global food system was basically run by a powerful club of three: the US, Western Europe, and Japan. They had the tech, they owned the big trading companies, they even set the prices on the stock market. They pretty much made all the rules.
But then, a new player stepped onto the field and changed everything: China. I mean, just look at this timeline. In the early 2000s, China was just another country Brazil traded with. But by 2009, boom, it shot past the US to become number one. And this year, their trade hit a jaw-dropping $115 billion. This wasn't just a small change. It completely redrew the map of global trade.
And then came the moment that lit the fuse. In 2018, the two biggest economies on the planet, the US and China, dove into a full-blown trade war, slapping massive tariffs on each other's products.
One of the biggest victims in all this? American soy, a huge export to China. So what did China do? It had to shop somewhere else. And Brazil, as the main rival to the US in the soy market, was more than ready. This chart says it all. Brazilian soy exports to China didn't just climb, they exploded. The trade war created a once-in-a-generation opportunity, and Brazil grabbed it with both hands.
But this incredible production boom, well, it comes at a price. And that leads us to Brazil's green gamble. Can the country keep expanding its agricultural empire without destroying its most precious natural resources?
There is a quote from our source material that just hits the nail on the head. You might think modern farming is super efficient with water, but actually, Brazil's high-tech model is incredibly thirsty. The push for more and more productivity requires intense irrigation, and that's putting a huge strain on water supplies, especially in the Cerrado biome. And now, the world is starting to push back. But the challenge isn't the kind of thing you'd expect, like a tax or a tariff. It's something much more complex.
Major buyers, like the European Union, are putting up new kinds of roadblocks based on environmental and social standards.
Just take the EU's new anti-deforestation law. The goal is pretty simple. They want to ban any products grown on land that was cleared after 2020. So now Brazilian companies have to create these complex tracking systems to prove that their soy or their beef is clean. It's a massive signal that getting access to big markets is now tied directly to being environmentally responsible.
But don't think for a second that Brazil is just reacting to all this pressure. It's also innovating from the inside. A fantastic example is Renova Bio. It's a national policy that actually created a carbon market for biofuels. Here's how it works. If you produce cleaner energy, you get to sell these things called carbon credits. And the companies that sell fossil fuels, they are required by law to buy them. It's a really smart market-based system to encourage a cleaner economy.
So after looking at the two farms, the global power plays, and this big green gamble, what does it all mean for the future of the farm that wants to feed the world?
Well, it really all comes down to a massive, delicate balancing act. Brazil is constantly walking this tightrope between its giant agribusiness sector and the family farms that actually feed its own people. It has to juggle the huge demand for exports with its own food security. It's navigating global trade wars while trying to build new alliances. And underneath it all is the biggest challenge of all: how to keep growing without crashing into hard environmental limits.
Which leaves us with the final, absolutely critical question. As Brazil cements its place as a global food superpower, can it actually manage this incredible balancing act? Can it feed the world and at the same time feed itself, lift up its people, and protect the very environment that its entire future depends on? The answer to that is going to shape not just Brazil, but the future of food for every single one of us.